Okay, takes forever. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Destiny podcast. I apologize for technical difficulties from earlier, but I'm grateful for Miss Piper Huguley. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. And her patience with me. And I just really want us to have a conversation tonight because as I read this latest book that's getting ready to come out, and I just became really like infatuated with the characters and the story. It's just so many things I never even knew about. And I think that's the whole purpose of reading. So first of all, let me give you a great introduction. No, I'm just playing. Piper is the author of the critically acclaimed historical novel By Her Own Design, detailing the life of Anne Lowe, the African American fashion trailblazer who designed Jackie Kennedy's wedding dress, as well as two historical romance series, Home to Milford College and Migrations of the Heart, a contemporary romance steeped in Southern traditions, history, and food, Sweet Tea. A multiple time Golden Heart finalist, Piper regularly blogs about the history behind her novels. In addition to her writing, she is a literature professor at Clark Atlanta University. She lives in Atlanta, Georgia, with her husband and her son. Welcome to my platform, Miss Piper.
Thank you so much. And how do you say your name?
James Cena.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to guess whatever. Like it. Our people are so creative.
My dad, his name was James, and he didn't have any boys. So there I go.
Yeah, there it is. That's what you do. James Cena. Yeah, I love it.
And so I made this, I just made it public, so you're welcome to share it on your page while we're talking if you'd like to.
Okay.
Okay, so Miss Piper, I've already used up a lot of your time trying to get you on here.
No, don't just worry about it. I am here. We're gonna do this.
Right,
it's all good.
You free, huh? Okay, good.
Well, okay. This book got to be sold. You know what I'm saying? We got to get this word out here. So I'm going to do whatever.
I know that's right. Because this book is like, man, this book is phenomenal. And it's like we have a responsibility to know our history and know where we come from. And most of us don't. So, I'm grateful for people like you who write literature that will draw us in and teach us at the same time. So thank you so much.
Yes. No, I say we are in a historical crisis. So
yes.
Absolutely. That's why I'm out here trying to do what I'm doing. So thank you for having me.
And you're doing a great job. Okay. So first of all, how many books have you written thus far?
I think American Daughters account is number 14.
Wow. I'm always fascinated when authors say that because I've been writing the same book for the last 10 years.
I had that period.
So
I had that period too.
Yeah.
You just got to get off the bike and get on another one. It's what it's like.
And you're yeah. I'm going to get it done. I promise.
Yeah.
So your overall theme in your work seems to be women and relationships and exposing the reader to something about these women that we never even heard of before. So how did you get interested in writing historical fiction?
Well, this part of my career that I call 2.0 was always in the works, because I saw around early 2010s other white authors beginning to do this work of what Sadia Hartwell calls literary excavation, of taking the lives, usually around that point in time, the early 2010s, it was about the wife of some famous man, and talking about what her life was like and her contributions. Now, prior to that, Jewel Parker Rhodes came out with Douglas's Women, which I really think was what tipped it all off in terms of this aspect of these women who had not been part of the historical record, and that historical fiction might be used as a way to excavate them, to bring their voices back, so that people could know about their accomplishments, even apart from their husbands. And so Douglas Women, I think, honestly, was the thing that kicked it off in terms of that, even though there were two other historical precedent or literary precedents for what Amazon calls biographical historical fiction. Margaret Walker's Huguley, published in 1966, and Barbara Chase Rabu's Sally Hemings, which was published, I believe, in the mid-70s at some point in time. So there's this sort of through line for me in terms of thinking about what could be done pointedly for Black women's accomplishments to be brought back and given voice to, in terms of that. Mm-hmm. So I started off writing romances because I wanted to be able to showcase that I had the historical background in order to be able to do this, what I call 2.0.
I love it. I love it. And I'm like, I think, and I'm real strong about voices. That's one of my things, words I use all the time, is because I think we were silent for too long. And because of that, other people felt like they had the right to speak for us.
Right.
And so now we're like, no, I have a voice and I'm going to use it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that, and still do in a lot of instances. And it's like, no, I insist on speaking. Absolutely. And that is the aspect that I think is different now in terms of the writing of these books from Black women about other Black women.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And the Let's Talk Destiny podcast, like the theme is purpose driven. And I always like to encourage people to understand that each one of us has a purpose. We were born with a purpose. And so the more when we find our purpose and we pursue our purpose, then we'll have a more successful life. And so do you feel like writing these amazing stories and shining light into darkness is a part of your purpose?
Oh, absolutely, I do. Yes, absolutely, I do. And that is, if anything, I think in both the themes in the 2.0 books, By Her Own Design and American Daughters, is very pointedly about that. What should a woman do when she is able to find her purpose? And in some cases, maybe a woman doesn't find her purpose, and what happens then. So yeah, that for me is, I love that theme for your podcast. It's very present in both of these books, and in the ways that I think about this particular work, because for so long, a lot of what has been done has been to try to keep women from finding their purpose. Like you were talking about silence there a little bit ago. I used to remember, I know we probably the same age or whatever. We never celebrated no Women's History Month. This is a recent phenomenon. This is relatively recent. You know, we had Black History Month, right? But we never have no Women's History Months. That's new. You think about
That's
that,
right.
it's new.
That's right.
Why is it new? Why didn't somebody, when it became Black History Month back in 1976, why didn't somebody join in and say, well, what? I mean, yeah. So it's past time, in my opinion.
It's way past time. It's way past time. Now, one of the things I want to talk about with regard, and again, I'm going to keep holding this book up because I want you guys, I can't find my camera. I want you all to get this book is coming out next month. You need to get a copy, right? There are some things in here that I never even began to think about with regard to women's voices and the clash between the skin color. We already know there's an issue with that in this country, but I just never really looked at, because I never desired to even have a really, really close relationship with a woman of a different race, because I always felt like it wasn't acceptable and it was always going to be a whole bunch of drama. So I just, hi, how you doing, and keep it moving. But in this particular book, before we get into the relationship of the women, I am I'm really taken by and obsessed almost with the father-daughter dynamic. My father is deceased now, and I am like the epitome of a daddy's girl. Like, I think if you look it up, but there's one of the things that really stuck out for me in this book was the dynamic between the girls and their father. And even though one was white, one was Black, one was President Roosevelt's daughter, the other was Booker T. Washington's daughter, what they had in common was trying to be seen and really valued by their father.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, I'm glad that you got that out of it. That was very much the point. I call it the "look at me, daddy" phenomenon. Look at me, daddy. See me aspect of the story, and Portia's more successful in that endeavor than Alice is. So it's, there's a whole aspect, because other historical fiction books have been written about Alice Roosevelt, but nobody ever bothered seemingly to want to ask the question about why she was so outrageous and out there with all her behaviors and everything like that. And to me, it was very, everybody treats her life as this ongoing joke, or, isn't she feisty or whatever. There was a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain in that white woman's feistiness. That nobody ever bothered seemingly to want to take a look.
Because she was President Roosevelt's daughter, people looked at her and assumed she had a perfect life. She had a great life. She's the president's daughter. She was having, and why she acted the way she did. And the thing is, Portia, being the daughter of Booker T. Washington, well, both of them carried a lot of weight. Like, they weren't really allowed to just be happy-go-lucky young women. There's a lot of weight attached to it, a lot of expecting. And I like how you illuminated that as well, because it's like everywhere they went, how they dressed, people that they befriended, it all was, I gotta look like good for my daddy. Wow.
Exactly. And that whole phenomenon for me that also loomed over in terms of the missing mother, and almost probably and this is something that, is I think it's undermining a lot of our thought and stuff today. If your mother happened to die as a consequence of giving birth to you in some way, it's like a cloud would be hanging over your head the entire life. If people know the expectation for you is to marry well and have children. Well, it's like telling somebody, go to the executioner over there. In terms of that, at this particular point in time, say this is the path for you that you are expected to walk as a woman, and particularly a woman who is a well-known young woman. Like, you're setting an example of this is what you do. You find that man and you marry him and you have children. And I know that both of them must have been like, yikes, that whole thing. And for Portia, not only once, but twice. No, it's just one mother, but then her first stepmother having medical issues as a consequence of being pregnant and giving birth. Frightening. So frightening. So I played a lot with that theme or whatever. And as I said, unfortunately now with what's going on with Dobbs and everything, these themes are not that distant from us. They're not that historic.
Absolutely. And with the climate, the political climate that we're living in right now, we're kind of like going backwards to that time when somebody dictates the control of your body, when somebody dictates what you can do and what you can't do and what you can be. Definitely going backwards. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, as the author of this book, how would you summarize Alice's purpose for us? What do you think her purpose for being was?
I think her purpose for being was to be a political operative. She had a lot of skill in terms of the political world. She was very intelligent, had a lot of skill, and that, her father could have used her if he only would use her, but he wouldn't use her because she was his daughter and not his son, and so, he won one of his own accord. He won one presidential election when in terms of that, and when he chose not to run again for 1908 and opted out when Taft went in there, and then he didn't like what he was doing, so he opted to run again in 1912. He's sort of like didn't take into account, or if he had let Alice take the wheel in some kind of way or whatever, it might have ended up in a different kind of way than what it did. So it's, that's what to me is
absolutely.
And sort of people know her in terms of her, people know her as the other Washington Monument. This is one of the sort of the names in which she was known by while she was alive or whatever. Yeah. Goodness, if they had just let her go and be and do all that behind the scenes machinations, in the ways in which she massaged it the way she was allowed to massage it. But if they just let her cut loose and be free, we would have a different country. But this is the whole question of when you have somebody who's in a marginalized position and you're not using or allowing them to use their talents because of who they are, whatever, it's a loss. It is a tremendous loss to all of us. I always think about enslaved people working in the fields. One of them might have had the cure for cancer. We'll never know that.
That's correct.
This is what I mean in terms of that. And that's the sorrow of Alice's life. At least Portia got her chance. Yeah. Right? She got her opportunity. she was derailed a bit, but she got her opportunity. Alice didn't get that opportunity, and I think we're just all the worse off for it.
Now let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Miss Portia, because she fascinated me, because she understood her position as a Negro woman. She understood her position as daughter of Booker T. Washington, but she did not let that derail her from pursuing her passion and her dream.
Yes.
So, how would you summarize as an author Portia's purpose?
Well, whenever people, and I think Booker T. Washington, his philosophy, it's like when we were coming up, it was seen as one thing, like, oh, he was a sellout and all this other kind of stuff. And I think now people are coming back around to his perspective, which is not to say that Black people should not ever attempt professional white collar jobs or whatever. He just was of the mindset that it was going to take a long time, that it wasn't going to happen out of the gate, in terms of that. And so I think for a long time, he's gotten a bad rap for his position, because if you look at his daughter, yeah, he said, go ahead, do your music thing. This is what you want to do it. And sent her to the white colleges and places and all. He invested the money in her to do that. And like I said, when I said that Portia did better by it in terms of that, this whole notion of a young woman being properly chaperoned, of course, to go abroad and study was very much an exercise of an elite class of people. And to me, showcased what Booker T. Washington ultimately thought we would be capable of.
Right.
By letting his daughter be an example in terms of that. And by, like I said, the spotlight, as we all know, in this country, we always have these parallel media, and I think, there's the overall mainstream media, and there's the Black media, which I think more Black people know about, in terms of that. I don't think that the larger population understands this dual media that's happening all the time. Because some people were like, well, Portia Washington, she is obscure. Oh, no, honey. Black people knew all about Miss Portia and what she was doing, and watching her via newspaper accounts, going to Europe and pursuing her musical career and all of those things. They always knew what she was not obscure to Black people. She had been doing what she had done. Which would pursue her music.
What she wanted, she knew who she was, and she knew what she would not allow to hinder her from getting, what she wanted. And I love that about her. I want to, this connection is getting worse every second, but I want to talk about something that I found very interesting in the book that I love, and that is the spirituality element of your story writing, because you kept mentioning the ancestral influence, especially in Portia's life, and I love that. Talk to us a little bit about that part.
Well, my father was a musician and a scholar, and a lot of the things with Portia that she underwent or whatever, you almost draw a straight line between, like I was saying, the things that Portia did in terms of her pursuing a career in music to what my father ultimately did in terms of that. Because like I said, her example showcased to other Black people about Black classical music, and pointedly using those songs, the spiritual songs that the enslaved composed, as an important body of work to draw upon and continue. My father was a scholar of that. He had several choirs, one of them being a family choir, who specialized in singing those songs, all of that stuff. Very important. And that those spiritual songs laid a foundation for, I think, the faith and belief that the enslaved had. A better day was coming, that ultimately they would be seen as human beings and being capable of doing more than what it was that they were able to do. And so, yeah, it was very important to me, and it was important to Portia in terms of her drawing upon that body of work and delivering it in all the ways that she could deliver it, like when she was in Germany, when she was in Dallas, when she was back in Tuskegee, all of those ways. Because, one of my father's things was that they be remembered and they're being forgotten. So me writing about it, I'm hoping is one of these ways of bringing it back around to get people to not forget, not forget that music.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful. And you write about the power of sisterhood and how bonding as women can transcend the color of your skin. And we have to look deep into our souls and our spirits and realize we're more alike than we are different. And I think that's one of the most powerful messages that I got from your writing with Portia and Alice. So from your author's viewpoint and with your author's eye, summarize for us the relationship between Portia and Alice.
Well, one of the scant factual pieces of evidence I had that they did have a friendship was in one of Alice's biographies, where she's quoted as talking about Portia as her compatriot. This notion of what a compatriot is, someone who has traveled the same road as you have traveled. The fact that these two young women had so much in common, but sort of walked different paths in their lives because of their race, points out just what you were talking about in terms of this, that there is a possibility. And the whole aspect of why was it secret? Why wasn't there more evidence in terms of, for me to go on in terms of writing such a book? Why does only one biographer talk about the relationship in terms of that? And these are these things that I'm hoping that this is what, when this book comes out and book clubs take it up. What I would love to see is some of these, like I said, as by our own design, I'm always doing book clubs. Let's have some joint book clubs with some Black book club, white book club talking about this book. That's the kind of thing I would love to see. Because to me, a whole lot of this, what's going on, means we need to be having more conversations with each other. And this was the kind of conversations that we, I think, as a nation used to have much more frequently, maybe more like in the late 70s and all that stuff. And then when the 80s came, people stopped having these conversations, stopped having these opportunities for integrated audiences to come together and talk about things. And I guess I have lofty goals for my little book, but I mean, who's to say in terms of, that's one of the for me in terms of writing it was like, see, I hope it can work out. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that's probably part of your goal, because you are a literature professor, and so you focus on literature and you understand the value and importance of it. But I want everyone in the audience and those who will watch this in the replay to get your copy of this book. And I'm telling you, you as women, we have got to because we say a lot of times, I have a voice, I have a voice, I have a voice, but then when it's come time to use the voice, we turn the volume down. But
Yeah.
this book
Yeah.
will help you to understand not only do you have a voice, but you are a voice. And
Yes, that's right.
we've got to speak out. And I think I would love to, after this book comes out, I would love for some of the women in my audience, after you get your copy, which I know you're going to do, I would love for I would love for you to reach out to me and let's get together and form a book club. And then we can invite Miss Piper to come back in and we can talk about it together. Doesn't that
I
sound
would
like a
love
great
that.
idea?
I would love that
Yeah.
so much. That would be so awesome to do that. It would be, that's what I hope for, is what I'm saying. It's like, let's get
Yeah.
these conversations going. And as women, I think, is very important to do.
And I'm definitely going to do my part to keep pushing.
I appreciate it.
Um,
We
absolutely.
pushed through
So I'm
though.
going to let you go. I'm going to let you go. But again, I am so thankful to you and appreciative of you taking time to talk with me tonight. Again, I apologize for all the technical issues, but the
We
next
made
time I
it
invite you back,
better.
it'll be better. So I have one more
Thank you so
question for you.
much.
Sure. I have one more question for you. There is a distinctly unique power in the pen. Those of us who write understand that there
Mhm.
is life changing power in the pen. All right. How did you
Yes,
come to
yes.
recognize your power and decide that this is how you're going to tell your stories through writing?
Um, well, part of it, has had to do with me ensuring that I had the time to do it, because I have this distinct memory of being hugely pregnant with my son at a writers critique group, and they threw me a baby shower or whatever, and the one dude in the writers critique group, he bought me diapers. Like he went to Publix and got like size 6 diapers or whatever, and everybody kind of laughed at him. I was like, hey, they got used. That's a good gift. Don't be, don't turn your nose up at the diapers now.
Right, right.
In terms of, and then the next thing that I knew, he was 10 and running onto the field to play his little games or whatever. And I was like, now what? Like, all them 10 years passed by, I didn't write anything because I was so busy focusing on him. And I was like, I guess it's time. I got to get back
Right,
to
right.
my stuff. And that about coincided with what I was noticing about biographical historical fiction, and noticing these women, writing about the lives of these women and excavating. I was like, that's what I would like to do. So that's what I started putting my plan into place to launch the historical romance series first, and then to move on to this biographical historical fiction. So yeah, and I just guess because even though it was very rocky, because, and I, like, for the longest time I called myself Agent Poison. I chased off some
Right.
agents. Like, I would tell them about what I was thinking about. This one woman, she had the cards in her hand, she's passing out, she put them in her purse and like crawl sideways trying to get away from what I was saying to her. So it's been
Wow.
a long time, but people be doing the most. But the whole aspect of what I've noticed, both in the classroom and in society at large, this whole aspect of the history crisis that we're in.
Yeah.
You might say, is there something that I could do in my capacity as a literature professor to address both of the, what I call both crises, the reading crisis and the history crisis? There's something I could do in terms of addressing both of those things and bringing across, like you're saying, the stories that people could learn something from, not just in my classroom, because people ask me, like, oh, do you make your students read your books? I say, well, that's a little bit of a conflict of interest, so no. But what I did was try to write books that they could read for pleasure outside of class, to get them inculcated and to get other adults used to a reading practice that might not be too arduous, that they could learn from. So, and once that all started, I was like, oh, I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So let me just go ahead and try to do it.
Definitely what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm going to say this again. I want my audience to please get I can't even see where the camera is. Make sure you get a copy of American Daughters by Piper Huguley. It's coming out April 2nd. I'm telling you, this story is phenomenal. And you all know, if you know me, Miss Piper is just getting to know me. But those of you that have known me for a while, I'm like very honest, sometimes too honest. So if I say I love the book, I love the book. And I encourage all of you, black and white, brown, all in between colors. I encourage you to get this book and learn about our history. And I promise you, you will not regret it. Okay, Ms. Piper, tell us how we can get in contact with you.
I am on Facebook, Piper G. Huguley, and I'm still on Twitter. I don't care what that man does, at Piper Huguley and Instagram. I don't care about old muskmelon. That's my platform. Okay. And Instagram at Piper_Huguley, and that's where you can find me at. Please reach out, and like I said, I'm available. I look forward to talking with a group of your readers about the stuff in this book. I love it. I love all of it. So.
All right, ladies. So we have got to get our copies of the book, and then we're going to form a group, and we're going to talk about the gems and the jewels that are in this book, and things that you probably thought you knew about Booker T. Washington and President Roosevelt. You're going to find out you didn't know half of what you thought you knew, and they're amazing daughters. So let's get these books and let's get this book club going. All right.
Yes,
all right, Ms. Piper. Again, I thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It all worked out, and I'm so glad it did.
I am too. And we'll have to do it again.
Yes.
We'll have to do it again. Look down the road. Okay. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. You have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.